Savannah undercovered.
The deep dive.
Undercovered, is that right?
Undercover.
No. But like if you
Present tense.
like if you
Savannah.
if you take the covers off.
Undercover.
If you take the covers off, exposed.
Uncovered.
That's it. Savannah Part 2, uncovered.
Oh my God, just roll the tape.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Hey listeners, ever wonder what it would be like to blow up your comfort zone at the tender age of 50? Well, we did just that. When our last kid went off to college, we hit the road in search of a new hometown. Now we bounce from city to city and bring you along for the ride. This is the Skiptown All-Stars podcast.
Welcome back, All-Stars, to another edition of Skiptown All-Stars. This is the Savannah Part 2 episode.
It is.
We have been here for about 3 weeks now. We are actually departing tomorrow.
We are, and it has flown by. There's no question about it. This has been one of my favorite places to visit and work.
Oh, okay.
I feel like it has stayed the same for a very long time. It was Santa Fe, New Mexico, and also Oklahoma. But now I'm like, oh, I didn't see anything until I stepped foot in Savannah.
Wow. Okay. And you were very uncertain about whether or not to even attempt this trip because of how difficult it was to get a place to stay.
Yeah, no, we were supposed to leave like Wednesday morning at 7 a.m. And I told you on Tuesday night at 5 p.m. it wasn't happening. And then we got a last minute phone call from one of the rental companies here in Savannah. And they said, we can work with your budget. And it all happened. So I was super grateful for that.
All right. So in the last episode, we went through a lot of tourist trap information for you. We went through a lot of restaurants.
I know, but you say they're tourist traps, but we explain the locals go there. So they're not actually tourist traps. They're just touristy places, which are legitimately good.
Okay. So if we went to places in Savannah that we went into great detail about, especially some of the restaurants, some of the perceived tourist traps that ended up not being tourist traps at all. Is that better?
That is much better.
But in addition to that, we actually had the opportunity, since we were here and since we were so interested in everything Savannah, Denise was fortunate enough to score a really great day with a real estate agent, Isaiah from Fox Hollow Realty here in Savannah. It was our first foray into actually looking at properties and talking about the market with an expert, somebody who's actually here and does business here.
And we both really feel like there's so much to know about Savannah. Why is it on everyone's list? Why? So we hired a professional to tell us. After we spent the day with them, we ended up going down to the Riverwalk area to have lunch at what you would call a touristy place.
Riverfront. Yeah.
Yeah. Riverfront.
Vic's on the river.
Yeah. And it was really good, but there were a lot of locals there as well. We took IC and Chanel there for lunch, and it was great. It was all seafood. So I enjoyed it. And, you know, it's interesting because that Riverwalk area has so many.
I believe it's called Riverfront.
Oh, okay.
Riverwalk is in San Antonio.
There's a river. It's like all the same. Walk, front. Okay. So river.
So city. Go on.
Front area. There's just cool places for everyone. And one place that we discovered, this was not with Asia and Chanel.
No.
This was a little hidden gem.
Yeah. That's
basically like under a bridge. It's a serial killer museum.
Graveface. So picture, if you will, the riverfront. There is a strip of basically cobblestone street along the river. Then there's a row of buildings. And then all of a sudden there's a bluff. And up that bluff are, you know, all kinds of bridges and spooky, creepy, like, you know, it looks really creepy at night.
Oh, yeah.
Like when you're down there.
Well, it used to be where they had.
It looks like Jack the Ripper type shit.
Oh, yeah, it does. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Agreed.
With a Southern flair, of course. I mean, it is Savannah. But anyway, you surprised me that day.
I did. I really wanted to take him to this serial killer museum. And I know it sounds insane, and it is, but it has artifacts, oddities from like Ringling Brothers Circus, cults, and serial killers.
Cults, yeah.
There are paintings from John Wayne Gacy, which That's kind of like overdone. Everyone has seen a John Wayne Gacy painting, but I was interested in seeing it in person because I'd only seen it online. Oh, it has stuff from Charles Manson. It has Jim Jones. It has Heaven's Gate. For me, there were a few things that just stood out. Okay. I don't know how you've never heard of Ed Gein. You grew up in the sticks. I never really have. Like, that's crazy to me.
Let me just start out by saying,
that's like where he came from.
I know, but you're from Chicago. So you have like in that whole like Illinois, Wisconsin area, you have like pound for pound, I believe, more serial killers than anybody,
probably
any other region in the United States.
I like knew who Ed Gein was when I was 12.
You got Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah, we have a lot.
You got the Candyman. I saw those movies.
Yeah, we do. We have John Wayne Gacy. We have a lot.
Right.
But Ed Gein, I knew when I was 12 because I saw Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and my parents get Parent of the Year for that. 12 years old, that's what I saw.
You had no supervision.
Zero.
They
And
were at the bar.
When we went to the museum, and there was a keychain from Ed Gein in his handwriting with his name on it, and had a locket of human hair.
Yeah.
Oh, I just stood in front of that for a really long time. Like, and nobody really knows, like, I don't know why they don't know, but nobody really knows if the hair is from one of his victims or his mother, which
way creepier if it's from his mother. Way creepier.
I know. It's crazy.
But yeah, he's actually, it was my first indoctrination to Ed Gein, and I didn't realize he was sort of the inspiration for all the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies,
Silence of the
Lambs, anything that has to do with somebody skinning another human being.
Yep.
Ed Gein. Yeah. Send him a thank you letter.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Tell me some things that you saw in the Serial Killer Museum.
My favorite things were the Kool-Aid packets. This sounds so ridiculous. These are my favorite things.
Don't say favorite. So
I know.
The most surprising. How about that? That they
the
discovered.
most interesting things to me were Kool-Aid packets that they found at Jonestown after Jim Jones basically wiped everyone out.
Yeah, there are actual packets on the ground from the cleanup crew that they have.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I don't know. It's weird. Like, I seem to be more fixated on, rather than the horrific acts of one single person, I'm always fascinated by how a person is able to con a bunch of people into blindly following them to their ultimate doom.
I think it's so easy. I always say we could start a cult.
How come we don't do it?
Because it takes a lot of work. Look how long this podcast takes. Can you imagine? Like, you have to rally every day. So
okay, fair enough.
I think that I think it's doable. All you need to do is it's just two things you need to do to make people join a cult. Make them feel loved, make them feel wanted. That's it. If you do that, boom, you've got a cult.
So families are cults.
Not everyone in a family makes you feel loved or wanted. So you just stop right now.
Okay, fair enough.
Sometimes a family could make you feel the worst. So you go to the cult because the family hasn't given you love or made you feel wanted.
Fair enough. I think they definitely feed on those who are insecure or those who are sort of shut out from connectivity in other aspects of their lives. So, but the one thing I will say is, once they identify those characteristics in a person, they do a really damn good job of, getting them to close off every piece of connection they have with everybody in their family.
Here's
and all that. That's the part that fascinates me.
We're in 2023, and I think to myself, don't you know a cult leader now when you see one? Like, if you're little Mary Jane and you're 19 years old.
Living in Los Angeles.
It's like, don't you see him coming a mile away when he makes you feel good about yourself, makes you feel loved, and all of a sudden 2 months later, he wants sex, and then he's having sex with the other girl in your group. Yeah. And then it's like, he's a cult leader. Like, you just need to, what about that doesn't scream he's a cult leader?
Yeah, that's usually where it goes off the rails.
They never love you or want you without having sex with you. So here's a thought. Okay, here's a twist. If you're thinking about being a cult leader, try not having sex with everyone and being a pedophile. I want to see what that looks like.
Well,
Because think about all the cults.
I think it ultimately ends up that way, yeah.
Yeah, there's not one single cult leader that hasn't done that. Not even, I can't think of a one. Serial killers just go straight for killing. Yeah. They're consistent. And I would say it's the same with cult leaders. They are consistent. You have characteristics of a serial killer, characteristics of a cult leader. There should be a new twist.
What's that? They don't have sex with everyone.
Yeah. Let's see how that goes.
I know. But don't you think that's how they sort of create the vibe of conspiracy and secrecy and making people feel special, like they're chosen? Like that's kind of like it.
Yeah, it could be.
It
That
just
whole
always
chosen
leads
thing, like
there.
I'm choosing to have sex with you tonight, but tomorrow it's going to be Sarah, and then
Yeah.
the day after that it's going to be
Miriam.
Lucy. Yeah,
Miriam's hot.
right? Yeah. So I don't know. It doesn't make me feel special when you're having sex with everyone. I would not. I understand the feeling of love and wanted. Look, we've watched cult specials where I'm like, oh shit, I would have been in that cult.
Yeah.
But then
We
once
have.
the sex part started, I would have been out because I wouldn't have felt special anymore because he's having sex with everybody.
Well, it's good to know you have that barrier.
I want to be
It's
your
good to know you'll come back to your
babe,
family.
I want to be your one and only.
It's good to know you'll come back to your family when it comes down to sex. So before that, you'll empty out the bank account.
Oh, totally. If you're making
you'll
me feel,
cut off ties with your children.
if you're making me feel love and wanted,
The
I'm out
minute
of
you
here.
need to take your bra off, forget it.
Yeah, it's over. I'm going
It's
back
over.
home.
I'm going back home. All right. So anyway, Graveface is definitely worth checking out if you have the stomach for it, but it is not for the squeamish. I'm not going to kid you.
Not at all.
Some of those photos, I was like, whoa, wait, damn, holy shit. So
It's true. And then after Graveface, we decided to take a walk down to Paula Dean because what better way to end the day than go to Paula Dean?
yeah. So we went from serial killer culture to cancel culture.
Yep, in one fall swoop. So let's talk about
Yeah. Let's
All
talk
right.
about walking over there. And you said, I want to try dessert and we really should go to Paula Dean's while we're here. I had a hesitation about going into this place.
why. Tell me why.
Well, because I know the story of however many years ago, 10 years ago or whatever, when she had some rather derogatory things to say about African Americans. I've had a difficult time since we've been traveling the country because, believe it or not, this is going to sound crazy, folks, but in some states, we've encountered real racists. And
That has scared us. And this is an
Florida.
Ohio boy.
Florida. Anyway, excuse me, something in my throat. But, whenever I'm around people like that, I feel like I'm doing a disservice to all the people. I just flash back to all the faces that were on our refrigerator for years in Los Angeles. Like we had a very cluttered sort of refrigerator where we just stuck photos
Of all the people we loved.
Of all the people we loved, random events throughout the children's entire existence and throughout our lives while we were a couple in LA. So, whenever I'm sort of confronted with people who think that way or talk that way, I just think about their faces and I think about I'm doing a slight tiny betrayal just by sitting here and being a part of this. So as we were approaching Paula Dean's, I had a little bit of that trepidation, I'm not going to lie. And as we walked up, I quickly saw a line of black folks going into Paula Dean's. And I was like, okay, I guess if black folks don't have a problem going to Paula Dean's, then I can go to Paula Dean's too.
It was weird. I didn't see one white worker. And I would say most of the restaurant, 70% were African American. And I was like, I literally wanted to say, what the hell are you guys doing here? She was talking shit about you a few years ago, right?
I think this speaks to a bigger issue, especially the complicated history of the South for sure. But also, I just think there are black folks who are like, yeah, people are racist. Like we deal with that every single day. So it's just a Tuesday and I want some banana pudding.
Oh yeah, you could be right. She was legitimately the first, I think, cancel culture.
Maybe.
Yeah. But so we went in there and,
it sucked.
Okay. I couldn't even lead up to it. Couldn't even lead up
sucked.
to it.
This buildup, and it's like.
So my one of my besties, Chandra, is a huge Paula Dean fan, and she went to the restaurant. And I know Chandra listens to the show, so girl, chime in. I thought when you went there a few years ago, you really liked it, but I need to know why because I was really disappointed. But I wonder if I was disappointed because I came from Magnolia Table.
Magnolia Table smokes Paula Dean's. There's no question. It's not even close.
For me, I'll tell you what I immediately saw right away and how I was completely turned off. Everything looked dirty. It looked like a diner with cheap paper tablecloths. And it wasn't like a kitschy, this is supposed to look like a kitschy outdoor picnic setting. No. It just looked dirty. And I did think while I was there, does Paula ever come here? Like, does she see the way it's being run? Like, who's she hiring to leave like dirty rags all over the bar and like shit on the floor? Like, didn't even been swept. I was like, I cannot believe this restaurant is still open and I can't believe her name is on the door. So I thought she had sold it to like venture capitalists or something. But then I thought, no, because venture capitalists would take really good care of it. So no, she actually still owns it. But here's something interesting. No locals go there.
Is that right? Who told you that?
Michaela.
Really?
Michaela said she doesn't know a single person that's been to Paula Dean. Wow. And then Chip last night said very, very underwhelming. And he also said, I think he said, yes, nobody really goes there.
Well,
so that, if you want to talk about tourist trap, I think you landed your first tourist trap.
It was a tourist trap for sure. I mean,
because locals don't go.
The plastic Waffle House dishes should have given it away.
Oh yeah, that was just so tacky.
It was a cafeteria. It was a hospital cafeteria. Actually, in hospitals, I think they have like plates, like porcelain plates.
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah, she had plastic plates.
Anyway, that place sucked. The dessert sucked. Thankfully, it wasn't like $12 for a banana pudding. It was only like $3.50 or $4 or something like that. Look, if you're into Paula Dean and you like her cookbooks and all that other stuff, I will say there were dishes that were coming out and like we did not have dinner there. So in fairness, we only were in there for a quick dessert. You got a drink or something. And we saw food being trotted out to the table. Fried chicken looked like your standard Southern stuff. I would just mention that, you know, there are plenty of other places in Savannah. Don't waste your time.
Okay. We only had dessert and we've gone to places where we have only had dessert and the food looks so good. We're like, oh, we'll come back for dinner. And we have. That was not one of them. So it doesn't matter how good the fried chicken looked. All I was thinking about is that kitchen must be dirty. I didn't even go to the bathroom there because I'm like, I'm sure that bathroom's filthy. Like I was like, I don't want to come back here. I can't believe it's still open. That's how I feel. So do not waste your time going there. We're not food critics. We're just telling you our experience.
So if you're going to waste your time, there's a better place to stand in line and waste your time in town. And that is Mrs. Wilkes. We're not going to give you any surprises. If you've ever done a search for Savannah, Mrs. Wilkes comes up as one of the must-hit places.
Oh, it's number one. It's, I think, the old Pink House is number one and Mrs. Wilkes is number two. But on some lists, Mrs. Wilkes is number one and Old Pink House is number two. All right. What's all the fuss about Mrs. Wilkes?
Yeah, you and I disagree. You bring up a good point because Pink House versus Mrs. Wilkes, you and I are opposed.
We are. So let's talk about the first time we tried to go to Mrs. Wilkes. Why don't you explain what Mrs. Wilkes is about?
So Mrs. Wilkes is a lunch place that's open from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. That's a very small window. And it's family style dining. So it's about 10 to a table,
eight to a table.
8 to a table, multiple tables. And so they seat people as 8 spots at a particular table come available. When you come to the table, it is preset with all of your sides and usually your chicken's already out there. So you have all your fried chicken, you have your mashed potatoes, you made a list. Oh my gosh, you put this on social media. I can't spend all the time, but there were everything from green beans to potato salad to, rice to you name it.
Literally, there are 20 to 25 sides. You didn't say that number. So when they set the table per day, it's between 20 and 25 sides. I asked for a list of the sides the day that we went there. And she said, oh, it changes every day. So I'm not giving you a list. That's what she said.
I mean, so I had to just remember. It's like fried okra, it's collard greens, it's like
mashed
all
potatoes,
the sides and everything.
Sweet potatoes,
We were seated with a couple people from North Carolina then 4 ladies from 2 were from Ireland. I think they all live in the Chicago area.
They did.
It was like a cool little community for an hour or so. I personally loved it. I grew up in the sticks. So for me, it really did feel like actual down home cooking, like something you would get at grandma's table.
And it's funny because Mrs. Wilkes no longer is with us, but her granddaughter goes to each and every table and brings
such a sweet lady.
Biscuits. Make sure you're enjoying yourself. I mean, their service is impeccable, and she's probably 92.
Yeah, those biscuits are dope too. With the honey on top, they're the right amount. Oh my gosh, they're soft, they're warm, they're crispy, they're not.
Now, the thing about Mrs. Wilkes is that you can't make a reservation. There's no such thing. A Magnolia Table, you can make a reservation. They'll call you when your reservation is ready. So they'll give you a time frame of like, okay, see you in 2 hours.
Yeah.
We'll ring you. Not here. They do not play. Like, you have to stand in line.
You're standing on the sidewalk.
There's no
waiting.
name. There's no list of names. Like, you stand, and if you get tired, you leave. Your place is gone. There's no like, oh, I'll come back and save my spot. Bullshit.
Yeah.
No one is saving your spot. They're hoping, like we were. We're like, who's going to drop like flies? Because we want to get closer to the door. So the first day we went there, the line was long. And I said to him, it was 1:00.
We walked around the corner and it was wrapped.
Yeah. So I said,
around the building.
We can't do this. I said, forget it. We're never going to get in. They close at 2:00. It was 1:00.
Yeah.
Then I said, let's try this again. They open at 11. Our goal was to get there at 10:30.
Yes. They opened at 11. We got there promptly at 11:30.
And the line was longer than the first time. So, but we got our asses in line because I was like, we're here. I want to know what all this fuss is about. They only take cash, but conveniently they have an ATM machine inside the restaurant.
Yeah.
So we waited in line for an hour and let's say 10 minutes. Yeah, about an hour and 10 minutes. Was it worth it?
For me, it was. I'll tell you why. I sat at Pink House for 2.5 hours for what I perceived to be a very mediocre red snapper. I'd say all in, it was a way better experience.
Okay.
You disagree with me here.
A couple things. First of all, they only have one main meat dish and it's fried chicken. And they claim to be the best fried chicken. I'm in Savannah. I've had really good fried chicken. I would say they're comparable to other places, not the best. I would recommend the experience because it's fun. Like, you're standing in line, you're talking to people, you sit at the table, you're passing literally from left to right in a circle clockwise, the food. So you're passing the food around with strangers. They're asking what it is. You're guessing at what it is. It's fun, but I would not recommend like going back. Like, do it for the experience, not for the food. So we disagree. He says the food was amazing. I'm like, it's fried chicken. And it's good fried chicken, but it's not great. It's not an hour and 10-minute fried chicken.
It's only $30 cash. I had a way better meal at a better price point.
Okay. So here a couple of things that I noticed when we walked in. And I mentioned this to him later. No one was happy. Meaning the people that were eating lunch. Yeah. No one looked happy. And I think honestly what it was is like, you're waiting in that line for so long. You have nothing to talk about anymore with your family members. And you get in and you're just exhausted and you want to eat. I'm going to show it. It's on my social media where I panned the room because I'm in there. We've waited. I'm excited. So I literally recorded from the minute we walked in until the time we sat down and recorded the layout of the table, how they set it, how the food was laid out. I scanned the room and the table next to ours. I said to them, how is it? Like in my like happiest of voices.
In our happiest Southern Paula Dean voice.
How is it? They just looked at me. And then I panned the table and I was like, oh no, God, please, somebody smile, right? Like this is like, I want to post this. Nobody was smiling at the very end of the table. A girl looks at me, she does one thumbs up. And I was like, oh shit. And then as I'm eating, nobody's laughing, nobody's smiling.
Our table was fun.
Our table was, but
The servers were really nice and they were happy. The people who worked there were like in good spirits. You noticed the other tables, right? I don't know. I don't know what their problem was. Maybe they were just like pissed off they had to wait or something like that.
I think that has something to do with it. So it's like...
You have to know that going in though. Like it says it on every stupid website brochure about
But
Mrs.
then you
Wilkes.
get there and you're like, oh, fried chicken. Like I feel like that's what it
really is.
What
did they expect? What does Grandma Wilkes cook?
Well, I think I expected...
Would they want pork tenderloin?
I expected like...
They wanted surf and turf? No. The hell did they think they were going to get for $30 country style cooking?
I think more than fried chicken.
They make poor people food. That's where Southern food is derived from. It's poor people food.
I think everybody sat down and said, shit, I could have gone to Popeyes.
Oh my God. It's way better than Popeyes. Do not let her mislead you.
Anyway, so that was Mrs. Wilkes. And
it's an hour less than Pink House.
Yeah.
And about $120 less too.
Yeah. And I do have a hack for you. The week before when we went there, we turned around because it was 1:00. The line was long. And I was like, I'm never going to get in. Okay. When we left, it was 1:55 and they had 2 tables of 8 being sat. So that's 16 people they brought in. I looked out the window. I saw no one standing in line because there's a little window. But when I actually walked out, there were 6 people still waiting. And it was 1:58 at this point. They closed at 2. Those people were going to get sat.
Yeah.
And I said to them, how long did you wait? One person said 20 minutes. The other person said 30. So there's your hack. Go to Mrs. Wilkes at 1:30 or 1:40, honestly. And you'll get sat. Don't do what we did and go at 11:30. It's just not worth it. I would go back if I had a 20-minute wait. I would never go back for an hour and 10. No, it's not worth it.
I wouldn't say just intentionally show up at 20 minutes till.
Would you? I would. I'm telling you, that's my hack. I'm saying show up 20 minutes till. Don't listen to him. Save yourself a whole day, go sightseeing and come in at 1:40 and you'll be sat. And then you'll tell us what you thought of it.
Okay. Let's talk about dead people. So here in the city, there is Colonial Park Cemetery, pretty famous because you can walk past it. We talked about this in the previous episode with the bone crushers and all that other stuff. But we decided we were going to head out toward Bonaventure Cemetery and not really on the way. But in addition to that, we decided we were actually going to stop at the Wormslow National Historic Site as well.
I don't know if it's national. It's not national.
It is.
It's on a national registry?
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because
stand corrected.
Had I used my national park card that we got way back when in Zion,
I thought it was just a historic
sitting in a
site.
shoebox in Florida right now.
I thought it was just a historic site. Okay, good to know.
It is, but it's national.
Perfect.
It's one of the first spots in Georgia. So basically, the history behind this place is a gentleman by the name of Noble Jones bought, I don't know, do you know how many acres of land? Does it matter?
I have 500 in my head.
A shit ton of land. It wasn't 500. He bought a bunch of land and you drive through there. It is the quintessential photo. If you're not looking at the fountain in the middle of Forsyth Park when you're Googling Savannah and seeing those images, you are seeing the hanging oaks that meet on either side of the lane going into Wormslow with the hanging the Spanish moss coming down. So you've seen one of those two photos.
That photo is iconic.
So we went to the site where he built basically a tiny fortress.
Yeah.
So he bought this plantation. This is all pre-slavery. And you can find the ruins of his little fortress right up against the river. There's a channel right there that leads to the bigger Savannah River.
Yeah.
And
there was a lot of shipping actually done on that river. Like he was part of it. He was his destination where he made that his home. That was part of the trading that went on in Savannah.
Yeah. And he fortified his cabin in such a way that if the Spanish came to invade, he was protected on four sides.
Okay.
And his soldiers, they would all close ranks inside the little fortress walls, and they would basically kick some ass until the Spanish decided to give up and leave.
We need to talk about how he made this fortress. It's everywhere. Like it's even on the ground. It was made of mud, lime, oyster shells, and water. Like it's rock though. Like when you touch it, but you can see the oyster shells.
It's as hard as cement.
Yeah, the oyster shells are all in it. Like I can't explain it. Like I took a video of it, so it's going to be on our social media. Like it's crazy. You could see the oyster shells poking out, but when you touch it, it's literally cement.
Yeah. There's a burial site there. There's also a blacksmithing site. So you can see the little blacksmith where they would make their tools or their implements or their weapons or their bullets or whatever, musket balls, I guess. That kind of stuff. It was worth seeing. I mean, it was $10 to go in per person. It was built back in the 1700s. And this thing, for the walls that are still standing, you can still kind of see how the whole place worked. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah. But like most places, they moved his body. It's so crazy. Like it's so crazy that they moved his body because he was such an important figure of the trade in Savannah that they wanted to put him in a special place. So they took him off his property and put him at Bonaventure Cemetery. What's really
I think that's where he ended up, but they gave him a monument or something like that before that. So he had one stop in typical Savannian bone fashion. He had one stop along the way. And then they moved him again to Bonaventure Cemetery.
But there is a graveyard. There is a cemetery on his property. There's plenty of room for
dead people there.
Yeah. So there's still people there. There's a cemetery, but they moved him. But here's what it's so crazy.
Yeah, it's just a monument there now for him.
Yeah. His family still lives on that property. So there's a plantation house that you can see like between the trees. It's enormous. And his family, the Noble Jones family, still live there. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But the road is private. But they're kind enough to let the public visit the rest of the property. And it is quite beautiful.
Yeah. And it's a 1 or 2 mile walk through the woods. So if you are tired of seeing Victorian houses and walking down sidewalks, it's a great excursion to head out that way. We don't have little kids, but if you did have little kids, it's a way for them to go run it out for a little bit and check out some old school history.
You have to see it. You have to see it because you've seen it in all the photos. Now go see it in person. That drive down the lane toward, the nature paths, that is so worth it. I mean, you'll see our video, but it doesn't even compare to what you see online. It's gorgeous.
It reminds me of that scene in Forrest Gump where he runs and the braces pop off as the kids are chasing him.
Do you think it was there?
It wasn't there.
Okay.
I think that was supposed to be set in Alabama. I don't know where they filmed it. But anyway, it reminded me of that lane. It's
beautiful.
Yeah. After Wormslow, we did finally head over to Bonaventure Cemetery at long last.
This is crazy. So this is like the weirdest thing ever. Bonaventure Cemetery is 133 acres, right? You can literally park anywhere. You can pull your car off. There's some areas that are designated, there are others that are not. Now, if you're looking for specific grave sites, you can just Google, what are the famous grave sites at Bonaventure? Well, we had a couple, I had 1 or 2, he had 1 or 2, but honestly, at this point, we just parked the car. We literally parked the car. He got out and went one way. I got out and went another. I didn't have my phone open to look for specific grave markers. I just wanted to walk around. The very first grave I walked up to was Noble Jones.
His final resting place. You found it.
I literally screamed. I screamed and said, I found Noble Jones. I just left his house. How? I mean, it's 133 acres. How did we pull the car off? I walk out, I walk 10 feet and there's Noble Jones. There was no reason why you
It just wrapped
parked.
a pretty little bow on your dead people tour for that day.
Oh, it was trippy. It was so trippy. There was no reason you parked where you parked, correct? You just parked there.
I got tired of driving.
Yeah. And so there was Noble Jones. I can't believe it. He was calling me.
Meanwhile, I was just walking around looking for cool headstones, and I took plenty of photos. If Denise puts them on social media, you guys can check them out. That cemetery has the sort of Southern Gothic / creepy / Victorian / whatever you want, old school Britain, anything you've ever seen in a Disney haunted movie with gravestones and all that other stuff.
It's 133 acres. It's what everyone says you should see. So it's one of the points of interest in Savannah. So we felt okay, we have to do it. Everyone says, have you been to Bonaventure? I would suggest, honestly, a tour. But because we've done 2 tours, I couldn't do it. I mean, we both agreed that it probably would be great. And we have somebody that our tour guide, Bonnie, recommended. So if you're interested, I can share the name and number. He's called Bonaventure Dan. And I guess he knows all the ins and outs of the history of the cemetery, where certain grave markers are. We just really honestly wanted to walk around and just kind of take it in ourselves. So we did. I mean, literally, individually, he went his way, I went my way. But here's what's interesting. All of these famous cemeteries, like Colonial Park Cemetery, Bonaventure, they're all, what's the word? Not exclaimed, but they're all noted to be haunted.
Oh.
And they all close at 5 o'clock. For me, there's nothing that says this cemetery is haunted like a 5 o'clock closing. They're get out. The sun's about to set. You don't know what shit's going to come down.
Oh, I just think it's dipshits show up and do weird things after dark.
I disagree.
And it's really hard to police that stuff. So,
okay, here's what I was thinking. It's 133 acres. People hide there.
Of course.
Yeah, there's no question about it.
And you can get to it from the river. One of the things we left out is if you go past Dead Person Cell Block H, you can basically be right up against a river and you can see the water. And Bonnie actually made the joke. It's one of the only cemeteries in the country that has waterfront property for the dead folks.
Yeah, that is true. She did say that.
Very funny joke.
Here's what I think about since we're here. Colonial Park is in the middle of the historic district. That's where they do the satanic rituals. It's known for the cemetery that has had satanic rituals. But it's super bright. When you go there at night, they have floodlights on that place. Legit floodlights everywhere. You can see all the graves.
Yeah.
Not at Bonaventure.
No, you can't do that at Bonaventure.
So
There's
you
too much space.
Seriously could jump the fence and go.
No, literally, your kid with his little tiny single, small motor fishing boat can pull he and his friends up with a 12-pack
Well, I'm
of
talking
Schaefer
about jumping
beer.
the fence. I'm talking about jumping the fence. Yeah, you can do it river.
The fence is pretty high, if I remember.
Yeah, but I think you can still do it. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I mean,
Okay,
you know,
so
industrious people find a way. So you may be able to see the water at Bonaventure, but there are two things you're not going to see there. Number one is ghosts.
you might.
And number two is the bird girl, the famous bird girl on the cover, I believe, of the Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil book, and definitely on the DVD cover at some point, a
poster,
fixture in the movie.
everything.
It is the statue that has historically defined Bonaventure Cemetery, and she is no longer there because people kept messing with her, much like Jim Morrison's grave in Paris. And so now, if you want to see the bird girl, you have to go to the Telfair Academy. Speaking of Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, you know, if you've read the book or seen the movie, Kevin Spacey, it's like that movie's like 30 years old at this point. 20,
it's almost like asking, have you seen Gone with the Wind?
Yeah, totally.
It's like so old. So whatever. So it's an old ass movie with Kevin Spacey.
Based on a true story.
It is based on a true story. And we actually, on our walking tour, went to the house where the shooting happened. And so Bonnie...
We didn't even tell what the story's about.
I'm going to
say... About a searcher. Okay, go on.
Bonnie, our tour guide, explained to us what went on in this house and who these people were. The house was originally called the Mercer House. And there was a guy named Jim Williams who was a restorationist. And he came and bought quite a bit of property in Savannah, made it pretty during a time when nobody was doing it. And
so this house had been in disrepair for almost 100 years, right? Yeah, like General Hugh Mercer had it. And by the way, he's Johnny Mercer's great grandfather.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Oh,
turns
wow.
out, turns out that the
learned
Mercers
that.
are a big deal
Holy
around
cow.
here.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
so the house was built in like the 1800s. What was it, like 1860 or something?
Yeah, before the Civil War or during, like right before the Civil War or something like that. And it was just lying in disrepair until about 1969 or something.
Right.
Like
so
that.
this guy, Jim Williams, comes to Savannah, decides to fix up some houses. He doesn't really make big changes to the houses. This is again from Bonnie. He just restores them to their original beauty. And this house was one of them. Nobody would take on this project, the Mercer home, because she said like the roof was falling in. It was just, everyone thought Jim would come in and just plow it down, literally start over, but he didn't. He spent years restoring this beautiful house. So now today it's called the Mercer Williams house because of the work he put in. He literally restored it to its natural beauty.
Right. So, but an important detail about Mr. Williams was that he was a gay man at a time when people weren't really outwardly gay, but everybody in polite society sort of knew the deal.
Yeah.
And turns out
he had such good fashion. Everyone was super excited. He was going to make this house really nice.
Yeah. But he had a proclivity for not just men, but male prostitutes.
Oh, yeah, he did.
Of which Danny Hansford was one.
And he would employ them.
He would, yes. And it turns out, for I don't even know the reason, it doesn't matter, but ultimately love went south. And Jim Williams shot Danny Hansford, and that is the plot to the entire movie of Midnight, the book in Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil.
Yeah. And so Jim says that Danny came at him. It was self-defense, blah, blah, blah. What was the interesting thing about this that was crazy that Bonnie told us?
The court case, the ensuing court case afterwards. So he was charged with the murder of Danny Hansford, and he was actually convicted for this murder. But wait, they weren't done there. Somehow that conviction got overturned, I believe twice, and then there was a hung jury, and finally he was acquitted, at which case it was double jeopardy. He could never be charged with this murder or accused of this murder again.
But during that whole time that he was going through this, I think, and I could be wrong, but I thought Bonnie said he was still working. But I'm like, wait, you're going to trial. So like, how could you be working?
I thought you were going to say in and out of going through all these court cases that he always had impeccable shoes.
Yeah. I'm sure he did. But that aside, I think what she meant was that, or what I heard or should have heard was that when he got out, he'd go back to work. Then he was tried again. Then he'd get out, go back to work. I'm like, holy cow. Like, this is like a guy with 9 lives, basically. Like, you know what I mean? Like 4 times being tried and 4 times being.
And finally, he walked.
He walked. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is for sure. All right. Well, that's enough history up your ass and enough talk about dead people and people shooting people and all that stuff. We've given you a ton of information about Savannah. So let's just tell you the most important piece of information you need to know about Savannah. You heard it here first. go to Sly's Sliders. The best little slider sandwiches you were ever going to eat in your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you made friends with the owner.
I've been there twice.
Scott.
Yeah.
Scott, I swear to God, you've heard it here first. Like, Scott has full-blown plans of expanding this thing. This little restaurant concept of his is going to explode.
Yeah. He prices each slider at a reasonable price. It's their $3.50.
Yep.
So you can have a couple mini hamburgers and a mini hot dog. And he does the hot dogs, like the list is so large. Like, he'll have a Chicago style, a Coney Island style. He'll have a Southern style. He'll have a jerk hot dog. Like, I
petitioned him strongly for an LA dog. So we'll see if Scott adds it to the menu. I hope he does.
Okay. LA dogs are not that good. So nobody's going to put on their menu. So you should just stop right
awesome.
now. No, it's just when you're drunk after a game, you think LA dogs are so good.
This is coming from somebody.
This
is coming from somebody who puts a cucumber on their hot dog. Who the hell does that?
That's delicious. Okay, but let's be real. Go and get an LA dog at noon on a Tuesday, not at 1 a.m. on a Saturday night. Okay, it's your food tastes are skewed at that point.
An LA dog is good any time of day.
Disagree.
Try one with your pancakes.
No, I totally disagree. Try one sober.
Okay, moving on. Sly Sliders. Definitely check it out if you're in Savannah or in a neighborhood near you. I promise they're coming very soon.
Yes. Okay. Are you ready for your top five?
Let's do top fives and bottom fives. You're going to go first. Yeah. Do it.
There have been some cities where I don't have a top five. I have a top three, a top four. There are other cities where I have more than five. This is one of those cities. Are you
saying we're not consistent?
Well, I'm saying that some cities offer more than others. And so my top five may be less or more.
I'm saying we're not consistent.
I'm not saying that. You can say it. You're not consistent. I am. All right. So my top five. So I love the fact that Savannah's walkable. That to me is a selling point. I'm willing to sell my car, and everyone who knows me knows I love my car and I keep them for 50 years. Literally, I do keep them for like 12 to 13 years. So for me, saying I'm willing to sell my car and move to a city like this is huge. That's how much I love Savannah. So I love the fact that it's walkable. That's my top number one. Number two, I love the fact that transportation here is free. It's a smaller city, 150 some thousand people, and they care about you so much they give you free transportation. I come from a city like Chicago or LA where everyone is using it and they could give two shits and they're making you pay. And sometimes it's late, sometimes it's dirty. I mean, I love that the transportation is free and it's clean and it's easy.
Yeah, I will say, coming from a city where you used to like sort of getting a kick in the crotch on every corner.
Yeah.
Not so much here.
No, it's amazing. They have put thought into their people.
Imagine that. Go on.
I love that everyone is so friendly. Like, so many people will just stop and talk, even though I think I'm going to get robbed half the time. When I don't get robbed, I'm walking away and so grateful.
What does that mean?
For that conversation or a pat on the back. I'm like, they just took my wallet. No, everyone here is so friendly. Everyone. I don't think I've met an unfriendly person.
Living here would actually instruct you to dial back your city a little.
It would. And I'd be fine with it.
I'm
fine with it. I want to be a nicer person.
You're going to be a sweetheart?
I do go to bed every night trying to be better. It's just the mornings are difficult.
And then by 9:20 a.m.
Yeah, it's gone to the wayside.
Yep.
Okay, so I like the fact that local shop owners are able to have a residency on the really popular streets. Now, what I mean by that is we've been to so many cities where like their downtown area is just corporate shops like The Gap, Banana Republic, Urban Outfitters. And hey, there's nothing wrong with that. But the rents are so high, locals can't afford to have their cute shops there, whether it's a chocolate shop or a clothing shop. Most shop owners have to have it off that main street. Not here. On Broughton, you will see local.
It's Broughton.
Okay, I'm going to say it my way.
It's O-N on, but it's not Broughton.
Broughton.
It's not brought on.
Broughton.
It's Broughton.
Broughton.
Okay.
I'm going to say it my way because that's how I say it.
Nobody's going to know where you're talking about. Go on.
Broughton Street. You can have your cute little boutique there. You can have a chocolate shop there. You can have an ice cream store there. I know the rents are obviously more, but they clearly make it affordable where locals can still have a business. And I find that really charming. I really do. It makes the downtown a true downtown, not just a corporate hell. What I also love about this city is that it really is a mix of old and young people. Now, this is new, and this gives me a little comfort because I've really been beating myself up over the fact that we've missed an opportunity to move here. I have to be realistic that our kids would never have moved here during high school. Even during the pandemic, they would not have because they still wanted to graduate or have the hope of graduating with their class. But I do have some comfort in knowing that if I came here in 2017, I probably wouldn't have seen the same landscape I see today in the age group of people. From what I understand, talking to Michaela and other people here, it was very much just a tourist mecca and old people. Like that was it. Even though SCAD is here, the Savannah College of Art and Design, it really wasn't like a place where they had a downtown area with clubs and bars where young people could frequent. It was really just a lot of tourists, old people, and the college kids, but it's not like that. So from our understanding, what we've learned is that in 2020, Savannah really changed their nightlife. They really listened to what the younger people wanted, and they created places that brought in people of an younger age group and made it a place where 30-somethings would want to live, 40-somethings. And then the college kids who would leave are now staying. I love that. I love when I walk around the city, it is all age groups.
It is.
So that to me, I really enjoy. And my last favorite thing, Fox Hollow Realty.
Nice.
Isia and Chanel and Michaela were so fantastic. And I can't say enough about them. Please find me that $500,000 Victorian in the historic district. Please. I'm begging you. Just do it. Do it right now.
We're going to need some market indicators to change before that happens. But that's a very good one. Your bottoms?
It was kind of hard for me to pick bottoms because I have had such an enjoyable stay here. So I'm not going to just make shit up. So my bottoms, I don't think I quite have 5, but these are my personal bottoms. Service is too slow for me. I don't care where I go. If I just want to get a soda, they take forever. And it's like, there's no urgency for anything. I get it. We're in the South, but damn, that really grates on me after a while. Like when my to-go food is sitting on the bar and I could see it sitting on the bar and the bartender isn't getting it and the hostess isn't getting it. And then I have to say something. And then the bartender goes, hold on. And then he goes and makes 3 more drinks. I'm like, no, that's not how it should be. He should be handing me my to-go order. And then he turns around and makes the 3 more drinks because we all know the 3 more drinks takes longer than my to-go order to hand to me. Service sucks here.
I'd say we're running about 70% slow service wherever we are.
Rentals in historic and Victorian area of Savannah are very hard to come by that are nice. Do I blame Savannah? I don't know. I got to blame somebody, so I'm not sure. So that is terrible. Like if you're coming here and you think you're going to get a cool Airbnb, just forget it. I'm telling you.
But it's going to be run down.
No, it's not even going to have good furniture. I looked. Please, okay. I am the expert at this. Don't argue with me about this. You stay shush.
I can tell from that day bed in the living room behind us.
It was $155 a night here.
Okay, fine. Go on.
Oh, you're not going to find a 2,000 square foot apartment for $155 a night. Okay. So I'm the expert and I'm telling you, this place sucks. You're going to have to find, I don't know what you're going to do. Good luck. Good luck. Have some money set aside or just come for a 4-day weekend and stay in a bed and breakfast because you're not going to find an Airbnb that's worth your money. They all start at $300. Good luck. Okay. So that really sucks.
You want a new Airbnb, go stay in Pooler.
Yeah, you're going to have to go further out and
suburbs.
Drive in. For sure. 100%. I don't like the fact that there are a lot of one-way streets here. It's very reminiscent of New York and San Francisco, and I don't know why they had to do that here. It's a small town. It's so confusing. I've driven in a city. I know how to drive, and I am so nervous when I drive here that I'm going to be going the wrong way. And they don't make their one-way signs very visible in the sense that they should have them more, they should have them properly. What's the freaking word? They should have them displayed better. Their one-way signs should be displayed better. Like they should have them more often. You'll turn down a street and you'll have no clue as to whether or not it's one way. Then I'm like going back to DMV testing 101. Is it a broken line? Is it a solid line? Like I know there's got to be lines that tell me if it's a one way. But yeah, so I'm petrified half the time when I'm turning right because I'm wondering, should I be turning left?
I haven't really experienced that. I kind of like the one ways.
All right. Well, this isn't your bottom 5 now, is it? So
I'm going to put it in my top 5 now that you mentioned it.
Just hush. Okay. Also my other bottom 5, which I don't know, like it's just a bitching because there's nothing anyone can do. The summers are unbearable. And I know this because I've been in Florida, so I know it's bad. So that's a bummer, but that's a bummer for me in Chicago. That's a bummer for me in Arizona. So that's a bummer wherever I go. I just wish I wish if I were living here, we're talking in like my fantasy world, I could enjoy my summers. Well, that's not possible from June to September generally.
So you want a swimming pool in your $500,000 Victorian in the historic district?
A swimming pool would even work because you're hot all the time. Like you have to sit inside to cool down. So for me, that's not enjoyable. I know everyone says I like to stay inside anyway, whatever. You know what? This is my bottom 5. So everyone just like,
shut up.
Yep. All right. And then the last one, which is, I'm so disappointed that Paula Dean sucked.
Who could have expected?
No, I went to Magnolia Table where like the salt shakers are perfect. And then I walk into her place, thoroughly disappointed.
Well, they haven't been canceled yet, so they haven't had to resort to plasticware.
I don't think she's been there for a visit. And if she has, I'd really hate to see what her house looks like.
Pictures on the wall.
Do you know how old that is? Do you know?
I do. As a matter of fact,
it actually had grease on it. Okay. It looked dirty.
All right. Moving on. I'm going to start out with my bottom 5s.
Oh.
Since we're in a negative mood already.
Bring it.
My bottom 5s are train fucking horns. Oh my God. We get it. You're driving a train. We get it. You're the engineer. We get it. There's no reason for you to blare the train horn
at 2 a.m.
for an hour every single morning.
At 2 a.m. though.
We understand. Whatever time. It seems like it's 5 or 6 a.m.
I think they do that shit on purpose.
They absolutely do it on purpose. They absolutely do it on purpose.
So do you think there's 2 conductors in there and he's like, hey, Larry, watch this. And then does it. And he's like,
I honestly think they're doing chin-ups on the chain that pulls the horn. They're just pulling on the horn and pulling on the horn and pulling on the horn. It is nuts. And our tour guide, Bonnie, actually lives even closer to the train than we live. I don't know how she does it. I don't know how the locals do it on this end of town. It's stupid. It's nuts. I get it. There's a real, got to get things into Savannah via train. Totally understand that. No reason to lay on the horn that long.
You need to write a letter.
I need to write a sternly worded letter to the president of trains. Okay. So moving on, slow service at many places. I'm not going to belabor that. You've already kicked that dead horse. I would say you complained about the one-way streets. I would complain about the parking signage and / the app clarity. So,
okay, just to be clear here, the signs are perfectly fine.
We're not talking about your signs. We're doing my bottom 5.
No, you just don't know. You don't know the difference between Monday 1 a.m. and Tuesday 1 a.m.
No, they're not. Because if you go downtown, they'll say, okay, you can park here, but it doesn't say when the cutoff is or when the parking rates start. And if you go into your app and let's say there was a day, I forget what day, we were parking somewhere at like 5:30 p.m., right? I park, I enter the spot on the app and like 7251 or whatever the hell the spot number was. And it doesn't tell me that, oh, you don't need to pay right now because it's after 5 p.m. It says that spot is invalid.
Okay, so the app developer needs to have a sternly worded letter written.
Absolutely. Like whoever developed that app is dumb. And in addition to that, we've had this discussion. So if you go to Chicago or LA or anywhere literally that has like public parking, they say between the hours of 8 a.m. and 6 p.m., fee parking or whatever it says on the sign.
Yeah.
They don't have that here. Like, you don't know when it starts, you don't know when it ends, unless you're a local and you just know. Oh, you're like, on Bull Street near Forsyth Park, it ends at 5, but over on Bay Street near Drayton, it ends at 8 p.m. Like, how are you supposed to know that unless you memorize a city? It's really bullshit for like people who are driving in here. Okay. It's dumb. Just post the meter times. That's all you got to do.
Okay,
just post
noted.
it. That was my big one. Anyway, so if that's my biggest bitch, then we're in pretty good shape. I can't really say it's a bottom yet because we haven't really experienced it. Although the weather's really nice for February.
I mean, it's gonna be a hot summer.
The potential heat, yeah, I think it's gonna be a really hot summer. My last bottom 5 is last night we were sitting out with our good new friends, Chip and Kim. If you remember in the last episode, Chip was the one that took me all around to the hockey game and all that stuff. We've become really close buddies, and I appreciate all the time, Chip, that you've spent with Denise and I. And Kim, it was a pleasure meeting you last night. Love you guys already. Can't wait to see you next time.
Yeah.
But as we were sitting out on the patio of Sweet Potatoes Cafe or whatever it was called, Sweet Potatoes Restaurant, I was getting eaten by mosquitoes in February.
Because you're so sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was brutal. My ankles are tore up.
I know. I thought it was just me because they normally do come at me. Like whenever we were in Los Angeles, they would start eating at me, and then all of a sudden, you would get like one mosquito bite. But last night, for you to come home and say they were bothering you, that was something. Yeah. So we need to work on the mosquito problem here. So anyway.
Isn't this like the haven? Isn't this like the Mecca? Like the South is the Mecca of mosquito, like the deadly mosquitoes, or like they come in from Africa and stuff like that. Like they come straight to the South because they know they
is this the hotbed of Nile virus?
I think it is. The
virus?
South. I mean, like we can't even stay. Like they're just laughing right now. We're saying mosquitoes. Like, okay, you're in the South.
Well, I thought they were bad in Florida, but I know it's imagine that like standing water in marshy areas creates mosquitoes.
Oh, yeah,
I know. Right. Okay, so let's move to the tops. I'm going to rattle off things really fast now, so buckle up. The coffee scene here is spectacular. I went to a coffee shop named Mirabelle, very good. Foxy Loxy, I went to the one over in Starland, but there are two other Fox derivative coffee places around town, spectacular. Biddy and Bo's is a regional coffee chain, which I would normally shy away from, but I love their business model. Their business model is they hire people with handicaps, people with Down syndrome, people with physical handicaps.
So across the board, not just Savannah.
Yes, at all of their stops. Wow. Had a great cup of coffee from a very cheerful and expedient staff that waited on me in a very timely fashion.
Oh,
and
I would like that place.
I felt damn good about frequenting that place while I was here. I also went to a place on the south side of Forsyth Park a lot, Sentient Bean, Sentient. I'm totally hammering that word right now. Sentient Bean. I went to a place called Blue Door. They have waffles. They're better than their coffee, but the waffles were really good. Franklin's we went to downtown. Fine. Nice place. Collins Quarter. Same. Alexander's Bistro, also on the south side of Forsyth Park, near where we are staying. Pretty good cup of coffee. I did go to one place, interestingly enough, right here, the closest place to our rental. And that is called Mate Factor. And I didn't realize until we took that history tour with Bonnie that Mate Factor, Mate Factor, right on Habersham Street is actually run by a cult.
Yeah, it was in the Cult Museum, just so you know. I was legitimately.
That's right. It was in the Cult Museum. Yeah. I remember reading that right next to the Branch Davidians.
Yeah, and there was a piece of paper that stated they are still active here in Savannah, and you actually.
I went there 3 times.
You gave our money to cult leaders.
I did 3 times.
Do you think they put something in the coffee?
I don't know. Have I been acting differently?
No, you're still curmudgeon. You have not changed one bit.
Anyway, so once I found out that they were a cult, and so the 12 Tribes of Israel cult, real fast, is basically per Bonnie, a bunch of grown adults cosplaying as Jewish people. If you don't know what cosplaying is, it's basically when people go to Comic-Con and they dress as their favorite comic characters. Bonnie says that the 12 Tribes of Israel are basically trying to dress up as Jewish people. So anyway,
that's crazy.
I know, it's pretty weird. They were closed on the Sabbath, though, interestingly enough.
Oh, so they really are following the rules.
Yeah, walking the walk. My second favorite place to go in the city is Cup to Cup. It has fantastic Americano. The espressos were really good. You enjoyed the donuts there.
Oh, their
the pastries
are
and all
amazing.
that.
I'm going to go today. I have to make one more stop before we leave.
It was so good, and it would have been my favorite spot, except there's really nowhere to hang out or sit there. It's a very small place.
Oh, it's just a to-go, it's like
yeah.
a counter with a door.
Yeah, it's literally on Abercorn Street. It's a walk-in, walk-out type place. So I would have to give my biggest tip to Savannah Roasters over on the western side of town. That was my favorite place. Coffee was delicious. They roasted there themselves. They had a bunch of pastries. I didn't try any of that stuff.
Okay, so hold
there.
on.
I just went for the coffee.
We've been to Seattle, which is the mecca of coffee. How does Savannah Roasters compare?
Savannah Roasters is pretty good compared to some of the places. Like I would say, I guess we've been to enough places now where I can do a top 5 so far of coffee that I've had all across the country. Savannah Roasters makes that top 5. Definitely. Without a doubt.
Holy cow. That's crazy. Yeah. The cities we've been to and Savannah Roasters makes the top 5. That's
it's
incredible.
Really good.
Okay.
It's really good. It's a good bean there. So anyway, if you want to see all the places I went, all the restaurants we went to, I have to remind you at this point, you have to go to the Google Maps on our Linktree link down in the liner notes. You can check out every place we've been. We've been to more places in Savannah than we've been to any other city that we've visited, even in Florida.
Yeah.
And so in Florida, we keep going to the same spot over and over and over again. We really spread ourselves thin and did everything we could and spent all kinds of money here so that we could report back to you. You have to check out that map.
Yeah.
Okay. My third favorite thing is tourists commingling with locals everywhere, literally everywhere. Mm-hmm. We were at the Crystal Beer Palace.
Yeah, that's what it's called.
Crystal Beer Palace. That's where we met Chip and Ray.
Yeah.
I would say my fourth thing is the diversity here. There are people of all stripes on every single block in the city, people walking around. I know, and especially being in Georgia, which historically has been a red state, or like we talked about earlier, has a complicated past when it comes to racial issues. I love the fact that this city is either too cognizant or, like Bonnie, our tour guide, said, too lazy to bother with overt racism.
Yeah, you don't feel it here. You don't see it. No one talks it. Like if they talk it, you're not hearing it. It's not out in the open. Like in some places we've been where it is out in the open, not here.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It's kind of amazing.
I'm sure there are individual experiences that may differ from what I'm saying right now. I mean, granted,
but we're just
I've only
talking
been here
as
3
tourists.
weeks.
It's like people who are literally visiting cities to see, could we live here? And there are some where we're legitimately like, oh yeah, that's so racist. We could not live there.
And I got to tell you, out of all the cities we've visited, what we are used to, and referencing again that refrigerator that we used to have in Los Angeles with all the different faces of all different stripes on our refrigerator, this town is the closest thing I've experienced in that department.
Oh, that's
out
true.
of any city that we've been to.
That is a really good way to put it. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a reflection of our collage of beautiful friends on our and family on our refrigerator.
It really is. And that sounds like hoity-toity and all that other shit. But
honey.
But it's like no, I'm saying you sounded hoity-toity.
Oh, okay.
I didn't sound hoity-toity. I'm just coming direct. I mean, it's impossible to be a traveler of any sort, of any length of time, and come out on the other side a full-blown racist. I really feel that in, sort of introducing yourself to different places, different landscapes, different cultures, really makes you think about the world you live in. And whether or not you agree with certain cultures or the way others do things, it's impossible for you to come out on the other side without some level of respect and interest in why they do what they do. So I've found that in Savannah. I think it's a really mellow place, and I've enjoyed that. Like, I would have no hesitation about asking any one of our friends, no matter their persuasion or race or whatever, to come here and visit us. I would never have an ounce of hesitation.
Everyone would feel welcome.
Yeah.
And I can't say that's the case for other cities.
Yeah.
Where if we were to invite our friends, they would always feel as welcome as we think they would feel here.
Right. And so that brings up my final point. Whether we were talking to people online, you guys, hearing back from you, friends, family members, you name it, and even the people who have recently moved here or the people who have lived here all their lives, I've been here 3 weeks talking about coming here for 6 or 7 weeks. Not a single person that I've encountered has had one crossword to say about Savannah.
Oh, that's incredible.
Can
and
you
true.
think of one instance where somebody's like, Savannah, why would you go there?
No.
Those words have never been uttered. And just ask all the people that are about to descend on this place next month for St. Patrick's Day. It has the second largest St. Patrick's parade in the United States.
New York number 1 or Chicago?
I believe it's New York. I don't know. I don't care. I just know Savannah's number 2.
And it's kind of crazy because you don't think Savannah and Irish,
No.
But no, there's a huge Irish
There is a
population
huge, yeah.
here, and they celebrate it strong. There are stores that are just all green, and I cannot tell you how many people have said to me, "Are you going to be here for St. Patrick's Day? Are you going to be here for St. Patrick's Day?" I'm like, "What is up with St. Patrick's Day?" And then we find out from everyone that lives here, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's kind of like their Mardi Gras.
Totally. So, all that to say, we feel like we've had not just a killer experience here in Savannah. We have really strived to bring you every ounce of this city in our podcast, the last 2 episodes that we absolutely could.
Mm-hmm. We have. And even right now, as we're wrapping this up, I'm in my head thinking like, I want to go to that.
Got to get to Leopold's.
I know.
Got to get to ice cream. We haven't gotten the ice cream.
I know. And I want to go to the burger place in the VFW because there's a burger joint in a VFW hall that's supposed to be phenomenal.
Yep.
And I think that's a hidden gem because Chip didn't even know about it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
So,
all right. Well, we got to get out of here. It sounds like we have a couple more things to hit on our way out of town by tomorrow morning. Thank you so much for being with us on the Savannah episodes, plural. And we're excited to bring you another city very soon. Take them out.
Empty nest, full tank.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.